Have you ever watched someone spend years convincing the world they had moved on, only to suddenly reveal that they might never have let go in the first place? Because that's exactly why social media can't stop talking about Martell Holt right now. For years, viewers watched one of reality television's most explosive relationships fall apart right in front of the cameras. There were arguments, emotional confrontations, shocking accusations, and a divorce that many believed closed the chapter for good. But now, something has changed. Recently, Martell has appeared far more emotional than fans are used to seeing him. In interviews and public appearances featured in the source material, he reflects on missing his family and speaks about how difficult it has been not having the same relationship with Melody that they once shared. Those emotional moments have sparked a wave of discussion online, with many viewers wondering whether he's finally realizing what he lost. But here's the question everyone keeps asking. Is this genuine regret, or is there something much bigger happening behind the scenes? That's where this story takes an unexpected turn. Because according to many fans on social media, Martell's recent emotional moments didn't happen in isolation. Some viewers believe they're connected to the possibility that Melody has completely moved forward with her life. Now, before we go any further, it's important to make something clear. There have been numerous online discussions and rumors about Melody's personal life, but many of those claims have not been publicly confirmed. Like much celebrity speculation, they should be treated as exactly that, speculation. Still, whether those rumors are true or not, they have reignited interest in one of reality TV's most talked about breakups. And that's why everyone suddenly seems to be watching Martell again. Because for the first time in a long time, people think they're seeing vulnerability instead of confidence. Throughout the years, Martell often projected the image of someone who believed he could handle any situation. No matter how intense the criticism became, he usually appeared determined to defend his perspective. But in the moments highlighted in the source material, viewers saw something different. Instead of talking about winning, he talked about losing. Instead of focusing on the future, he reflected on the family he once had. Instead of speaking with certainty, he appeared emotional while discussing how difficult it has been not having the same connection with Melody and their children as before. For longtime fans of Love and Marriage Huntsville, those comments immediately stood out, because this wasn't the same Martell people remembered from earlier seasons. And that's exactly why people started asking whether something had changed. But to understand why these emotional moments have affected so many viewers, you have to go back to the beginning. Long before the headlines, long before the public arguments, long before millions of people started taking sides, Martell and Melody were considered one of the strongest couples in their community. They weren't simply husband and wife, they were business partners, parents, entrepreneurs. People looked at them as an example of what building success together could look like. Together, they worked on businesses, raised 4 children, and created what appeared to be a successful life from the outside. For many viewers, they represented a modern power couple whose future looked incredibly bright. But appearances don't always tell the whole story. While the cameras captured celebrations and achievements, another story was quietly unfolding behind closed doors. And according to the events discussed throughout the show and referenced in the uploaded source, that hidden story would eventually change everything, because one revelation would completely reshape how fans viewed their marriage. At first, many people hoped the rumors weren't true. Fans wanted to believe that whatever problems existed could still be repaired. After all, every marriage faces challenges, every relationship has disagreements. But what eventually came to light shocked even longtime viewers. As details emerged publicly, conversations about an alleged long-term affair became impossible to ignore. Those allegations became one of the central storylines surrounding the couple and dramatically changed public perception of their relationship. For many fans, that wasn't just another celebrity scandal. It completely transformed the way they viewed everything that had happened on screen before. Suddenly, moments that once seemed ordinary looked very different in hindsight. People revisited old episodes, old interviews, old conversations, searching for clues they might have missed. And that's when the internet started doing what it always does. analyzing every expression, every interview, every social media post, every public appearance, trying to understand how a relationship that once looked so strong could fall apart so dramatically. Meanwhile, Melody's response also became a major topic of discussion. Many viewers praised the way she carried herself despite everything unfolding publicly. Instead of constantly engaging in online arguments, many viewers felt she focused more on rebuilding her own life and creating stability for her children and career. That perception has become a significant part of how audiences discuss the aftermath of the divorce. Of course, not everyone agreed. There were also viewers who believed both sides had made mistakes. Others argued that reality television only shows part of the story, and that's an important reminder. No one outside the people directly involved knows every private conversation that happened away from the cameras. Still, the public had already formed opinions, and once those opinions take hold, they're incredibly difficult to change. Which brings us back to today, because after everything that happened, after years of headlines, after the divorce, after countless interviews, why are so many people suddenly paying attention again? Why are clips of Martell discussing his family spreading across social media? Why are comment sections filling with people debating whether his emotions are genuine? Some believe this is a man who has finally reflected on the consequences of his past decisions. Others think the timing raises questions. And then there's another group that believes something else entirely may have triggered his emotional moments. Could it simply be regret? Could it be loneliness? Or could recent online rumors, whether accurate or not, have reminded him that life continues moving forward? No one outside those involved knows the answer, but one thing is undeniable. The conversation has returned, and what happened next only made the internet even more divided. Because as viewers looked deeper into the history of this relationship, they uncovered details that made the story far more complicated than many initially realized. If there was ever a moment that completely changed how fans looked at Martell and Melody's relationship, this was it. Up until then, many people believed they were simply watching another married couple dealing with the pressures of business, parenting, and reality television. Arguments came and went, emotions ran high, and like countless other reality shows, viewers assumed most of the problems would eventually be worked out. But as more details began to surface throughout the series, it became clear that what was happening behind the scenes wasn't just another rough patch. According to the events discussed on the show and reflected in the uploaded source, allegations surrounding a long-term affair became impossible to ignore, and those revelations completely transformed the public's understanding of the marriage. What made the situation so difficult for many viewers wasn't simply the allegation itself, it was the reported timeline. According to the story presented on the show, the alleged relationship had reportedly lasted for several years. If true, that meant it wasn't being viewed by fans as a single mistake made in the heat of the moment. Instead, many interpreted it as a second life unfolding alongside a marriage that millions of people believed was built on trust. Whether people supported Martell or Melody, almost everyone agreed on one thing. Once those allegations became public, the relationship would never be seen the same way. As episodes continued to air, the emotional weight carried by Melody became increasingly visible. Viewers watched her trying to process not only what had allegedly happened in private, but also what was now becoming public conversation. Every new episode seemed to bring another difficult discussion, another uncomfortable confrontation, and another reminder that the marriage many had admired was slowly falling apart. For many fans, the hardest part wasn't watching the arguments themselves, it was seeing someone who had spent years building a family and businesses suddenly forced to confront questions no spouse ever wants to face. At the same time, public opinion began shifting at an incredible speed. Social media exploded with theories, reactions, and debates. Some people believed there was still hope for reconciliation. They argued that long marriages often survive incredibly difficult circumstances, and that families deserve every opportunity to heal. Others believed the damage had already gone too far. They questioned whether trust could ever truly be rebuilt after years of alleged deception. The internet quickly divided into two camps, and every interview, every episode, and every social media post became new evidence for one side or the other.